Was never actually border czar.
Border czar, which was not something that was formally conveyed upon her.
She's been labeled incorrectly by some members of the right as the border czar.
Republicans named her the border czar.
Republicans have always exaggerated what her job was at the border.
Republicans, again, have labeled her the border czar.
But that's not exactly what President Biden asked her to do.
She was never put in charge of the border.
That wasn't actually her task.
Not to secure it, but to address the underlying roots of migration.
She was charged with leading the administration's efforts to address the root causes of migration.
The root causes of migration to the U.S.
The root causes.
Root causes.
Root causes.
The root causes.
Root causes
of immigration.
We also want to point out that right now apprehension numbers continue to decrease in our country, especially over the last few months.
And I just want to note that border crossings have been going down.
And illegal border crossings are lower right now.
Migrant crossings continue to drop.
Border crossings are way down.
Border crossings are down.
Democrats on Capitol Hill are being handed this card with talking points about the vice president and the border. Do you know who's handing this out?
I have no idea. You probably should ask her campaign.
So the first one says Vice President Harris was never appointed border czar. There's never been such a position. It doesn't exist. Why are Democrats so sensitive about the vice president and the border?
Why are Republicans so sensitive about actually not owning up to them getting in the way of a border deal? Why? Why won't they own up to that? Why won't they own up to the last president told them not to move forward? It was a bipartisan deal on just right there, available to them, and they voted twice against it. Twice against it. Why are they so sensitive to moving forward and actually dealing on an issue that majority of Americans care about, is dealing with what's going on at the border?
Do you think that the border would be less of a talking point now if there was less migration to the border, say if somebody had addressed root causes of migration sooner?
Wait, hold on a second. Did you not hear the beginning of I know there were a lot of toppers, but one of the toppers, I talked about what we're seeing at the border. It's down by 55%, not because of Republicans in Congress and what they did. It's because of what this president and this vice president did. He moved forward and took actions to deal with what's going on at the border. Republicans continue to block getting resources to the Border Patrol agents. They continue to block actually dealing with an immigration system. So yes, we are going to debunk the false characterization of the vice president. She was not a border czar. And it's not just us. Independent fact checkers have said the same thing, that did not exist, and that is not true.
This is some crazy stuff. DNC talking points was recently leaked, and it seemed like the mainstream media is following word for word, bar for bar, what to say about the whole Kamala Harris's campaign, her record, her ability. And one of the things I wanted to point out is I made mention earlier on this channel, if you're new here, 97% of U.S. journalists are liberal. So if these are DNC talking points, the majority of the mainstream media will receive those talking points. Now, we don't know who's putting these things out, but we know for sure, based on video evidence that I showed you in the intro, based on the fact that Jean Pierre got confronted with these talking points, it seems like this is the plan, this is the move, this is the play for the Democratic Party. Now, I mentioned that we shouldn't trust the mainstream media. And with these talking points coming out and seeing how much of the media is actually parroting these talking points instead of asking questions about these talking points, hey, where did these talking points come from? Is these talking points necessarily true? It just seems like the journalists blindly just believe it and they're going along with it. So what does that tells you? Doesn't that validate my point that majority of journalists are Democratic operatives? If these are DNC talking points, for me, I perceive this as, these are talking points that Democrat politicians will be saying, but the mainstream media is the one parroting them. And I understand that a lot of people want to support the first black-looking woman as president, but you can't support someone under a lie. Kamala was never border czar, noted. Kamala was never donated to MFF. We'll find out more about that later. Kamala was never rated the most liberal senator, noted. The first presidential election with X is already having media propaganda exposed in real time with receipts. This is something that we have to take seriously. The community knows is a hero that no one wanted for, but they definitely sure needed, right? So now on this next clip I have for you, Kamala Harris has been denying the fact that she donated to the Minnesota Freedom Front, which bailed out dangerous criminals, right? They say Trump falsely accused her. How can you claim that someone falsely accused someone else of doing something when there's receipts of her in 2022 being confronted about it? Take a look.
I want to ask you, the Minnesota GOP is holding a press conference this afternoon to criticize you for your support a couple of years ago, before you were the vice president, for something called the Minnesota Freedom Fund that was really set up to help those who were arrested in the aftermath of the George Floyd riots, help them get out. It's since been sort of morphed into something else and has been used to help people get out who've been accused of many other crimes. Do you have any thoughts about this?
Well, first of all, I am a child of parents who marched for civil rights in the 1960s in America. And I have always been and will always be a supporter of peaceful protests. Many peaceful protests over the history of our country have led to an expansion of rights and an expansion of civil rights. So that's where I stand on peaceful protest. And I think that, unfortunately, what we're seeing is people are playing political games right now. We're 18 days away from midterms, and we have sadly not seen a lack of misinformation and disinformation. And I think this is another one of those examples.
How right she is, right? This is an exact example of misinformation, disinformation. But it's not going to be labeled that because the mainstream media needs this to be true, needs us to believe this nonsense. And it's so baffling to me what people are doing here. And it's so ridiculous. Like, I love the fact that many people are saying the BS, but if you're not tuned in, like if you're a person that's not tuned into politics, they're gonna people are gonna fall for this. And I don't know how
I
someone
want to ask you, the Minnesota.
I don't know how someone can morally justify like allowing bad information or misrepresented information to come out. Oh, that's not technically true. But when you get the full context, most people will rise to the same conclusion that, oh yeah, you did bail out. You did donate to this fund. So why all of a sudden you donating it now? This is funny to me. Like it's so hilarious to me that the mainstream media is out here literally an arm of the Democratic Party. That's the only way you can make sense of what the hell's going on. You interview her about the fund, and now in 2024, you're going to say she had nothing to do with the fund? Bro, trust the internet more than you trust the TV. Imagine that. This is propaganda. There's no way, there's no ifs or whats about it. This is propaganda. And when I make this argument, a lot of black people get offended about this, but when I make this argument that, hey, black people have some of the most low information voters in its group, it's because of the fact that they only listen to the Democrats. They only hear it from one side of the party. Like, imagine the mainstream media, 97% of the journalists are liberal. That means 97% of the time, black people are getting their information from liberal journalists. And these liberal journalists are getting these talking points for the DNC, telling you that she was never the border czar. She wasn't responsible for the border. She didn't donate to no fund that support dangerous criminals, even though she did. She's going to be the most progressive senator. She was the most progressive senator, a.k.a. the most liberal. She was. They delete all evidence of that. And you don't see a problem with this, Black America? I'm going back because the reason why I'm really attacking this idea of black support is, to me, if I can make the argument against why the most loyal constituency of the Democratic Party should not vote for Kamala, it's a lot easier for other people who are not as loyal to the Democratic Party to see my point, right? You make your strongest arguments against the strongest opposition. And the strongest opposition right now is black women supporting the Democratic Party. 95% of black women support the Democratic Party, just like 97% of journalists support the Democratic Party. So if I'm able to argue and debate against the most loyal constituency of the Democratic Party, if you're a part of a demographic that's less loyal, my points are more stronger with you because you're going, yeah, that don't make sense. Damn, not even the most loyal constituency of the Democratic Party can defend this nonsense that Kamala Harris is doing. And I don't want Black America to repeat the same mistakes we did with Obama. Because I'm being personal here. My father voted for Obama in 2008. And my dad said he regretted it, and he said he'll never do it again. My dad voted for Bush twice. So my dad was a Republican. And then he voted Obama because, Obama said if he lost, it wasn't because of his skin color, but it was because of his lack of ability of articulating a message to the American people. That's what got my dad. My guy's like, yeah, we need that guy in president. We need that guy as president. He'll put all this racism stuff to bed. He didn't. Obama didn't. He used it. He grifted on it to push his campaign to the next term, and he became the most race device. I think for me, the Obama presidency brought back racial division. I remember growing up in the 2000s, race didn't matter. You shouldn't judge no one by the color of your skin. It wasn't so overt about you caring about your race. Everyone was singing Kumbaya, especially when Obama won. I felt like racial division was fading away in the country during Obama's first term. And then, what's his name? I forgot his name. Trayvon Martin happened. And then the grift began. Race hustlers of glory began. Because the Democrats realized that they need people to see themselves as different in the country to win. Democrats can only win with a divided country. This is why they go, if you're black, you got to support Kamala Harris.
Vote for? Let me ask you a question. Would you vote for?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm going to just be real honest with this. She's a black woman.
Yeah.
Because they skin folk, not Kim folk.
I think it goes back to what somebody was saying.
I like the reactions from some of the other black people. They're like, bruh, come on now. I'm telling you, Kamala's divided the black vote, but I still think a sizable majority of black people will still vote for Kamala Harris. But I'm still gonna shoot my shot. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So I'm gonna still make the argument. And if it even moves, let's say even 10% less black people voted for Kamala Harris, I feel like I did my job. I digress. Let's continue the clip.
Where it's not voting for someone, but majority will vote for somebody else just.
Hold on. Let me line this out.
I think majority.
Is it only because she a black woman?
Yeah.
Do you not see how that's a bad idea?
Elaborate.
Okay, so we're in 3 proxy wars with some of the most powerful leaders in the world. She failed at the border, in which we have an estimation of 15 to 20 million people illegally into this country. That is literally overtaking and bankrupting Chicago to the tune of over $400 million per year, and they are in a deficit. Oakland is.
And the funny part is, right, when there's videos out there of black women in Chicago complaining about the fact that Brandon Johnson, Biden, is allowing all these illegals in there, and then Brandon Johnson with the sanctuary cities are taking them in and then pushing out the black community from their rec centers, their schools to use as shelters for the migrants that's coming in. And the black dude, I forgot the video, but the black dude asked her a question, who you voted for? And everyone started laughing because they know, hey, you voted for the problem you complaining about. And y'all gonna do it again because it's a black woman this time screwing you over. I already showed you that Kamala's in favor of criminals, so she's gonna be soft on crime, and we already know what incentives being soft on crime does. Look at New York, look at San Francisco. Crime reporting is down, but people are dying, cars are being breaking in. Look at other metrics. Y'all playing games here. Oh, crime is down. No, the reports of crime is down. But look at all the car break-ins to the point where people I think in San Francisco, you have to put your windows down. So people do, and so the thieves see there's nothing to steal and they stop breaking in. There was a conservative YouTuber, I forgot his name, Benny Johnson. He went to go check out In-N-Out because In-N-Out had to close because of the fact that there were so many break-ins in the parking lot with people going in to get their food that he had to close down his business. Imagine that. But crime is down in California. Superficial stats. Lying with stats. Craziness. But hey, I digress.
It's going out of business. San Francisco, ditto. California, $65 billion deficit. New York, they're literally cutting trash, in which they are the rattiest, dirtiest city, and they taken up resources as far as free healthcare, free hotels to the tune of $600 a day. They're literally taking over your schools Your taxpayer dollars are going to fund the migrant crisis. She was supposed to be in charge of this. We have a failing economy. Every single day I see people getting on the internet talking about $30 an hour is the new minimum wage because inflation is fucking out of control. At one point it was at
And here's my pitch to single women. If the economy is doing bad, it'll be harder for you to be a single woman. I made this argument plenty of times. It's being single, living by yourself, having your own apartment, having your own stuff, is becoming a luxury now. I don't know how many single women I know in my life that was forced to move back in with their parents because they couldn't afford the cost of living. And they're the biggest Democratic voters. I'll be looking at them. I'm like, hey, you voted for this. Is this inflation, the highest inflation rate in 40 years during the 2022 midterms? I said, y'all voted for this. Y'all was taking credit for Biden. Now you got to take the credit. You got to take the responsibility for this too. But at least my student loans got forgiven. It contributed 27% towards inflation. Good luck with that. What Kamala Harris is going to do any differently? Add more of the same. We already got fires going on all over the place, and now you want Kamala to pour gasoline in it? I believe the income, and maybe someone can fact check me in the comment section because I'm guessing off the top of my head. I think the income for you to live comfortably as a single person is like $87,000 a year, I believe, due to inflation. How many people you know are making $87,000 a year by themselves in this country? I'll wait. But she's the first black woman. You can't afford voting Democrat this year. Sorry, I'm being honest. The only people who go forward to voting Democrat are people who own assets, the people who have generational wealth. Because inflation increases the value of assets like stocks, like real estate, businesses. Black people don't own any of that, but you want to continue voting for Democrats when their spending is causing the inflation problem that we're dealing with. But inflation is down, Kenny, compared to Biden's high, yes. But at the end of the day, it stacks on top of each other. It don't just all go away. Remember when the Democrats said that inflation was transitory? Come on, guys. You cannot trust the Democrats. The Democrats will say anything to win. And once they win, they forget all of what they said. Once they win, they're like, all right, see you again in 4 years. Oh, see you again in the midterms. They only come around when they need something. It's insanity to do the same thing, vote for the same party over and over and over again, and expect something different because they package it up differently. Instead of it being a white old dude pushing these policies, now it's a black-looking woman pushing these policies, a biracial woman pushing these policies. And you're going to vote for the biracial woman, even though she's pushing the same load of crap that is giving you a hard life for 4 years, making it harder and harder for single women to live on their own. I don't know how many single women that I know that are moving back in with their parents because of the fact that they can't sustain themselves by themselves. I thought y'all wanted to be independent. How can you be independent in this economy? Now, being an independent woman has a price tag. If you're trying to brag to me, you're an independent woman and you're not making $87,000 a year, I'm gonna laugh at you. I'm like, haha, you're lying to me. You living with somebody helping you out, someone paying your bills. You probably on government assistance, low key. But this is the inflation you voted for because a biracial woman is pushing these policies. Oh, sorry, you're voting for a biracial woman, but you can't tell me what this biracial woman is going to do for you, or how her policies are going to incentivize you or empower you to have a better life, a better circumstance. I know this because I have a budget. Me and my wife, we live on one income. My wife's a stay-at-home mom. We have a budget going on in the house. That's the only reason I know how much of an effect inflation had on my budget. To the point that I had to get a new job just to get a 20% raise off my previous income because of the fact that my buying power lost 20% because of inflation, which looked about the average when the stats came out, about 20% inflation rate, 18% inflation rate compared to what we was dealing with 2020. Bidenomics. Tell me what Harris is going to do anything different. She's not, then I can't vote for her. And you shouldn't either. Because just like I said, y'all can't afford Biden, y'all can't afford Harris. Poor working class, if you make less than $87,000 a year, you can't afford voting Democrat. I'm just being honest. I digress.
Almost 10%, depending on what city that you in. She has no policy, no record to stand on. One of the biggest things that she did in her career was lock up more black men than ever before. But we sitting here and vote her in office on identity politics. The very person that she was under as far as the president of the United States of America, she called him racist during a debate, which shows you how fake she is. And the only thing that we can stand on from a policy perspective is whether or not she's black and she's a woman. We did that during the Obama administration, and he didn't do anything for black people. As a matter of fact, y'all complain because the only person that he did, or the only group of people that he really stood for, is the alphabet community, and that's his landmark thing that he's still standing on today. So the only thing that we have to stand on is identity politics. That shit didn't work with Tiffany Henyard in Dayton, Illinois. It didn't work with Karen Bass. It didn't work with Lori Lightfoot in Chicago. It didn't work with Brandon Johnson that then took over her position in Chicago. It didn't work with Andre Dickens in Atlanta. It didn't work with Eric Adams in New York.
His point about Brandon Johnson and Lori Lightfoot is the exact argument is what's going to happen with Kamala Harris if we put her in the presidency, right? Lori Lightfoot ran Chicago bad as mayor, and Brandon Johnson, in my view, he's running Chicago even worse than Lori Lightfoot, and that's what's going to happen if you vote in Kamala Harris for presidency. Watch.
It doesn't work across the country. Every single Democratic city is a hellhole. And we sitting here talking about identity politics?
Hey, wisdom is learning from your own mistakes, right? And I think it's time for the Black America to wisen up. Most of America already see, hey, we ain't voting for this crap. Even the Hispanics. The Hispanics are going, nah, we need to deport these people. 63% of America believe you need to deport these people. Do you think Kamala's going to do that? With her lack of oversight on the border, right? Before I end off, 6 Democrats helped pass a House resolution condemning VP Harris as border czar. 6 Democrats voted with the Republicans to say, hey, we condemn your actions as border czar. But the mainstream media is telling me that she's not the border czar. Propaganda. Trust the internet more than you trust the TV, because at least on the internet, you already have a preconceived notion that someone could be lying to you on the internet and you're going to go do your own research. But when someone on the TV says something, you're less inclined to do research. That's what I noticed. That's what I noticed with my behavior. Ever since I got all my news from online, I have researched more than I ever did getting news from the TV. And I implore most Americans, my fellow Americans, to do the same. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the DNC giving out talking points to Democrats, and somehow it ends up in the hands of the mainstream media. Strange. I'd like to hear your thoughts about some of the things that I have brought up in this video. I want to hear some of your reactions in the comment section below about what you guys are thinking about this whole situation. Let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you guys watching to the end of the video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.